I asked one of my favorite booktubers, Library of a Viking, to come and help us find the best horror spooky books. Each of us will be sharing 5 of our top recommendations, so hopefully you end up with 10 books that you can read and enjoy, 5-star reads for this season. Hi Johan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this, and yeah, I look forward to seeing your list as well. So my second and first spot are going to be like proper spooky, but I wanted to provide some alternatives as well. And the first one is Children of Time by Adam Jarkowski, which is a hard sci-fi book. But the reason why I think this deserves to be on the list is because it has a lot of big and intelligent spiders that are literally taking over a planet. So if you hate spiders like I do, then you will find this to be oddly fascinating, but also very terrifying. And also, it's just one of my favorite sci-fi books I've ever read, so everyone should really read this one.
Agreed. I mean, I am terrified about spiders. It's not a book that I will read, but I've heard everything about the plot, and I think it's very solid. And also, Adrian Tchaikovsky, it's such a hidden gem as an author.
Yeah.
Yes. My top 5 is as well not properly a very spooky read, but I think it's perfect for this season, and I will fight you if you don't think so as well. And that is Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. It's just so dark, but at the same time it's cozy, and it has this magic that only Gaiman is able to craft. We will follow this baby that manages somehow to escape a murder, and from that point onwards she will live in a graveyard, and that is spooky, and he lives among ghosts, and it's just magical. And it depends, I guess, on the edition, but mine, I don't know if yours as well, Johan, but mine have these beautiful and creepy illustrations that are just perfect. And I think this is fairly short for what it is. I think I read it in, one weekend.
It's such a great book. Yeah, it's one of my favorite Gaiman's books as well. Maybe not very scary, but it takes place in a graveyard and it follows dead people.
And if you're thinking that your TBR is increasing at a terrible speed, then there might be a way to get to all of those books. And that leads me to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare, it's an online learning community with thousands of online classes and members who come together to find inspiration and take the next step in their creative journey. It's a place to get inspired, to learn new skills, and to put them to work in a very impactful way. Now, what makes Skillshare so unique for me is that it has the largest learning community for creators with a massive depth and breadth, covering topics such as illustration, graphic design, photography, reading speed, and productivity. They also have creator career focus as well. It is incredible. Now, the two main things that I love about Skillshare, in one hand, they have this learn by doing approach. You will be able to do things, to share them, and just learn by doing that. And the other thing is that you can learn at your own pace. You can get inspired whenever it's good for you. I do have a job 9 to 5, and I find my time afterwards. In my case, I'm following Ali Abdal's productivity classes. They are amazing, and I am obsessed with productivity. How can I manage more books with my day-to-day life? But you can also find reading speed techniques, and if this sounds good to you, I've left down below in the description a link, and the first 500 people that clicks it will have access to one of the best offers that Skillshare has shared ever. You will have 30 days free and 40% off if you subscribe for the whole year. And that is amazing. So please go and check that out. Thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back, and Johan, tell us, what is your top 4?
So on 4th spot is definitely a hidden gem in my opinion, which is Hellmouth by Giles Christian. So this is a 110 or 120 page short novella, and it's basically a medieval horror, and it is brilliant. I read it in one sitting, and it's also on Audible if you want to listen to it. It's less than 2 hours, and it is proper scary. Now, since it is so short, I'm not gonna give anything away, but it's medieval, it's horror, and it does involve some scary elements. Let me just say that. So definitely pick it up. You can read it in one sitting, and I think most people that pick it up will definitely think that is definitely worth reading.
You think it's a kind of book that you need to avoid reading while it's dark outside, because otherwise I will have nightmares.
Maybe, yeah, because the ending is pretty messed up.
No! Okay, yeah, love it. Love it. For my top four, I actually wanted to bring something different that I don't believe I've ever recommended before in this channel or everywhere else, but it is actually a favorite of mine, in that it's a very, very, very short ghost story called The Spirit's Mountain. This is written by Gustavo Adolfo Becker, who is a very, very famous old Spanish writer. And he basically was very famous for writing poesy, all of that stuff. And in here, he just basically follows the story of the Hallows night or the Halloween night. And it's just one family that is, surrounded by potentially ghosts. And it isn't super, super scary, but it has this gothic atmosphere. And this was really told by my father to me and my brother every Halloween. And he just,
Wow.
he read this to us. It's a wonderful moment, and it is very short.
Is
So
it in
really, really
English
great.
as well?
It is in English,
Well,
yes. I will link I think it is free. I will link that in the description, and I will share it with you, Johan, as well. I think you won't be disappointed.
yeah, well, I'll definitely add that to my to be read list.
What do you have for us in your top three?
Oh, it's a book that you finished last night, maybe? Or the day before.
No,
Empire
no,
of the
yes.
Vampire by J. Christoph. So, if you are sick and tired of sparkling like vampires that are in love triangles, like Twilight, then pick up this one. This has proper scary and bloody vampires. It is incredibly atmospheric. The writing style is very beautiful. It's also very over the top in some places. But yeah, it has many bloody, scary vampires, and it is such an atmospheric read. And I absolutely can't wait to read book two, which is coming out early next year, I think. Definitely a very solid recommendation for this season.
100% agree. It's the perfect book to read over the season. It takes vampires and it's a complete different spin, but it is different because the narration it's weird, and also the pacing, right? Like how you move to the past and future, all of that, it's also weird, but man, it kind of works. It really, really, really works. It's such a solid read.
Yeah, and I think the second half of this book is much better than the first half.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think if you struggle with the first 200 or 300 pages, then like try to stick it out, because I think the later half is so good.
So for my top three, I have the Southern's Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires
Mm.
by Grady Hendrix. This is a standalone which always makes it points in my heart. It is relatively short-ish, and it is around vampires. But the thing that I really loved about this book is that it merges humor with kind of like a mystery, a thriller, and then it also had really creepy horror scenes. There are specifically some scenes that I don't believe that I will never ever forget, and I am now scared of things that I never thought before. And I was utterly consumed by this read. I read it in one day,
Wow.
and I don't know if that was a wise idea because I was not able to sleep. But
Wow.
yeah, perfect blend. It is not super, super scary, but definitely has great points.
Well, yeah, I haven't heard much about that book actually on BookTube, so that's a very good recommendation.
Oh yeah, take it. I mean, I'm not sure you read Spanish, but take it.
I'll learn Spanish so I can read it. On my second spot, and obviously I had to include a Stephen King book, Pet Cemetery. Most people say that this is actually his scariest book, which may be true, and I've heard especially if you're a parent and this is like even worse. But this is absolutely terrifying. It's basically set like in a like a small city in America, and there's this pet cemetery where if you dig your animals there, the animals come back. It is absolutely terrifying because something happens in the middle of this book, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but I think most people have probably seen at least one of the movies because it's so iconic, and it is absolutely terrifying. It's very dark, and it's bloody and very disturbing. It's definitely one of the most disturbing Stephen King books I've ever read. So this is a solid recommendation if you want to get like scared.
I will read it this October. I absolutely will. Is it super long? or is
No,
it
it's
manageable?
so my edition is 400 pages, and it's a standalone. So yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, points. In my top two, I wanted to share Into the Drowning Deep, which I know it's such an iconic fantasy horror book that I just read this summer. And it features mermaids or sirens, I don't know. But the thing is that they are very creepy,
Mm.
very dark. They are displayed here as these are the top of the chain animals, and they will hunt, and they are incredibly smart, and it gave me such deep blue sea vibes while reading it. It was fascinating because it was pictured as this is a documentary. You don't really know if the sirens will emerge or not, and then you start seeing how things play out, how the sirens are starting to hunt, and everything goes down so quickly, so bloody. It is actually a very good read, very very easy to read as well. I really really enjoyed it.
Wow, is it a standalone?
It is a standalone, yes. It has a prequel which you don't necessarily need to read, but I've heard it is very short,
Hmm.
because it kind of the book starts with the premise that something happened in the past and the sirens were filmed and people are like, whoa, that was fake, and they're coming back to analyze if that was fake or not. So the
Interesting.
prequel, it's that first story, and it was very good for what it was. And yeah, things go back.
Well, on my first spot, I had to include, and I don't have a physical copy. Isa does. It's another Stephen King book. It's a chunky one. It by Stephen King, and to be honest, maybe this book is slightly scarier, but it is such a wonderful coming of age story that also has a lot of horror elements, and it has Pennywise, one of the most iconic horror villains of all time. So if you want to experience one of the best coming of age story I have ever read, and you also want to get scared, then it is definitely the book for you. And that book is seriously chunky. So yeah, you'll have so many pages to enjoy as you read through the crazy story of it.
Yeah, I mean, shame on me because I have not read it. However, I was obsessed with the movies,
Mm.
and this one was one of my mom's favorite books, and she was always kind of like telling us stories around how Pennywise was making, the children have these awful scenes. And I'm terrified just for everything that I've seen. I'm not sure if I will be able to read it.
It is a
Sounds
commitment as well, because that book is
yeah.
so long. It's more than 1,000 pages. And it also
Yeah.
does have one of the weirdest and most unnecessary and disturbing scenes I've ever come across at the end. Like, people that have read
Mm,
it, they know what scene I'm talking about. But if you can look
okay.
away from that one scene, then I think
Mm,
the whole book is basically a masterpiece.
okay. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
You
Yeah.
don't want to know.
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, I do. When we stop this, I really want you to tell me.
So, what is your favorite horror book or spooky fantasy book?
Yeah, that for me is I Am Legend.
Mm.
This is a masterpiece. It is very short. It is a standalone, and honestly, it can't be read in one sitting. The premise, it is fascinating. It's around vampires. Is this post-apocalyptic world where everything is surrounded by vampires except for one man and his dog, and you basically see how everything unfolds. But the magic of this world, it's not just the vampires and the hunting and all of that, but how much it makes you reflect about who is a monster, what does it entail to be a monster. And I think it is just beautiful for what it is, being very dark. You won't be able to forget this book if you read it. Have you read it or watched
No,
the movie?
and I thought it was zombies, but is it vampires in the book?
Yeah, they are vampires.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure the movie has zombies, doesn't it? I Am Legend. Let's I'll just Google. They're vampire-like mutants, so not zombies. But in the movie, they definitely look like zombies. But yeah, they are vampires, so you are correct.
Like something has happened to society, and therefore everyone is a vampire.
Yeah.
So you have that zombie-like concept.
Definitely.
But yeah, loved it so much. I really, really recommend.
Yeah. Oh, I have one honorable mention. Legends and Last Day by Travis Baldry.
What? No! I was like, the darker version that you just got? It's quite the opposite. But if you want to blend that with something cozy and, just warm as a hug, then yeah. So thank you so much, Johan, for sharing your recommendations. Please check out his channel, Library of Viking. Let us know down below which are those books that you would recommend other readers to read during spooky season. They can be spooky or horror or whatever you think will make us slightly scary. And thank you so much to my Patreons who just joined the Inkwoodian Society.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.